space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind for better mental health.
This is A Space to Speak Your Mind. We're a radio show and podcast about mental health made by people with lived experience in association with Cornwall Mind. We do cover subjects that some listeners may find distressing. For more information, help and support, please visit cornwallmind.org. And if you'd like to be part of the show or send us your thoughts, we'd love to hear from you too. I'm Richard and this is the December show. On the programme, I'll be speaking to psychotherapist Joshua Fletcher, also known as Anxiety Josh, about productivity anxiety around Christmas. I'll also be joined by Lynn Romeo, Chief Social Worker for Adults, for those considering a career in adult social care. We'll be finding out about the Christmas drive-in movies with Warwick from Skylight Cinema and Lucy from Cornwall Mind. Jess will be speaking to us about Grief Awareness Week. And in the first of our series on end-of-life care, Liz Pryor from the Anne Robson Trust will be here to talk about the support that is available.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind for better mental health.
So it's a space to speak your mind. I'm joined by Joshua Fletcher, who's also known as Anxiety Josh, who's a psychotherapist. Josh, good to have you with us.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on.
As Christmas approaches, there's a lot of anxiety around the festive season, especially as we hope this year to have that Christmas that maybe we didn't get the chance to have last year. So what do you think are the main concerns that we're having?
Well, what's really interesting and particularly exacerbated at this time of the year is this whole concept of productivity anxiety. And for some people, that's a term that they've not really heard about, but I can guarantee a lot of people can resonate with it. Productivity anxiety is characterized by us worrying about if we're being productive or not. It's when our days are often dictated by I should thoughts. I should do this, I should do that, I should do that. We're restless when we're kind of sedentary or idle. We feel guilty for relaxing. And we're often driven by the fear of not meeting our own personal high expectations. And you've got productivity anxiety when, you're chasing endless to-do lists and feeling mounting pressure, which is usually exacerbated at this time of the year. I've known about this kind of stuff for years, but I'm really happy that Microsoft have teamed up with me to do a bit more research into it.
So talking about the kind of anxiety we might have, and especially, we try to be as productive as we can in December, but there's just so much to do. There's the expectations with work and the family commitments. Is it just that everything comes at once?
Yeah, of course. When everything comes at once, you kind of lose sight of your own personal boundaries that are helpful. If people are experiencing this and you're listening now, that you're not alone. We did some research and got some stats into it. Since the easing of restrictions, 61% of people reported that feeling this kind of productivity anxiety has increased since the easing. Things kind of went relatively back to normal. 42% of people feel as though they aren't able to keep on top of this to-do list. And this research was done a couple of months ago, so I imagine that number might even be different now, given the time of the year. And 40% often feel guilty for not fulfilling all their commitments across both their work lives and their personal lives, which, again, I don't find surprising, but I know a lot of people did find that very surprising.
And are we using our tech in the best way? I know tech can be great for us. We can use it for taking some chill out time, maybe playing a few online games, but we just have to remember really to make that time our personal time. So maybe turning off notifications for work, or maybe making sure our emails don't go late into the night. Are those the kinds of things that we should be looking at?
Oh, absolutely. And it's about developing a better kind of association with your tech. What I really like about my dual screen phone is that on one side I've got work stuff, and on the other side I've got kind of play stuff. And I play games and stream Xbox games and stuff on my phone. It's good to see visually where you can have a visual boundary put in. Your phone doesn't just constantly have to be going off all the time, reminding you of these pressures and expectations. I like my phone as well, because I can just close it. It's not constantly flashing at me all the time. It's about your associations with it, because for a lot of people use their phone for both work and to turn off. And again, in the research, we found that only 35% of people use their phone to reinforce their own personal time boundaries, which, considering how many hours a day we probably use it, it's quite a low number. And I'd like to see if we kind of change that association with it.
And what do you think we can do to manage our anxieties around Christmas? I know you've got some top tips. You've mentioned there using tech in a different way, but I like the idea of this challenging our negative self-talk. Sometimes we say to ourselves, I've not had a day off, or I'm not quite there yet. So it's really changing the way we view things sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. One of them, when I work with clients and things, it's one of my first tips is challenge these I shoulds. Instead of thinking I should, why don't you split these tasks under I want to and I need to. It's Wednesday, so I need to put the bins out. But there's other things on my to-do list that I don't necessarily need to do today. I could put myself at the top of that to-do list. Second tip is ask yourself kind of, who am I doing all this for? We often put other people's needs first and forget our own, but our own needs are just as important. And obviously, when we're happy, other people can be happy too. It's not selfish. You don't need to feel guilty for putting yourself first. And obviously, you can use tech as a tool. There's loads of longer info and advice on Over Time Limited over at the Microsoft News Center, where I talk about things in video and got loads of bullet points and stuff if you want to read through and share all my helpful tips there. But they're my main ones. And particularly, putting yourself first is so important. It's okay. The amount of people that I talk to, and I don't know if it's a British thing or not, I don't know, but there's almost like a taboo about putting yourself first, putting self-care first, and allowing time for yourself in order to rest and recuperate.
I think rest is so important, isn't it? Because it is such a busy month, December, and we're always rushing around, and we tend to pick up colds and we run ourselves down. That's not what we want to be having over Christmas. We want to be well and to enjoy it. So it's really having those rest times as well before the big day.
Yeah, absolutely. And changing your associations with things around you is a bit like being able to see tech and using your phone and things like that as a way of kind of switching off too. Not only getting the most out of your work, but switching off too. It's an interesting point as well, what you said about that. Not only are we working hard and there's the pressures of Christmas, but you forget about how kind of poorly we can get as well with the colds and coughs and all that, which does take its toll. The
good thing as well with our tech, we don't always have to go into that busy shopping atmosphere. We can do a lot of shopping from home. We can use our tech smartly to be able to prepare ourselves better for Christmas and give ourselves a bit of an easier time. And what would be your one tip for having a stress-free Christmas? Yeah,
just final reminder for people at this time of year, don't compare yourself to pre-pandemic you, and don't criticize yourself through trying to be productive, because it doesn't help.
So some great tips there. Just remind us again where we can go for more information and to read about your top tips.
Yeah, so this whole project is under the Productivity Trap, and that can be found at the Microsoft News Center. Unfortunately, you'll see my face, but I do share some really cool information.
Great to speak to you today. I hope you have a good Christmas and it's nice and relaxed and you get time to spend it however you want to. But for now, thank you, Joshua Fletcher, also known as Anxiety Josh. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And now it's time to hear from Jess talking about Grief Awareness Week.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind for better mental health.
Hello, my name's Jess. I'm going to speak to you a little bit about National Grief Awareness Week, which is on the 2nd to the 8th of December. And the slogan for this year is Spread Some Warmth. Please help us to spread some warmth and support the bereaved. Have tender conversations about grief. Let's set a new language of grief so no one is scared of what to say. There's a few events coming up which are local to us. We have on Monday the 6th of December, the Wooden Box in Redroof are holding their first evening of Grief Cafe, and that's from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. On Wednesday the 8th of December, we have our main event, which is at the Red River Cafe at Heartlands, and that's from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that is a Good Grief Cafe and a memorial. And at 6 p.m. we'll be lighting up the engine house orange and there'll be a minute's silence. Lastly, but definitely not least, also on Wednesday the 8th of December, in line with the rest of the country, we have an event at Kimberley Park in Falmouth where we will be lighting up the stage orange. At these events, there will be merchandise to buy, for example, candle holders, brooches, bracelets, to name but a few, with all the monies going towards the Good Grief Trust to help raise awareness of the impact of grief. We don't want anyone bereaved to feel alone. We are here to support you through your grief. As somebody who helps out at the Good Grief Cafe at Redroof at the Revive Cafe, I provide a little art workshop there called Jess Heart, and anybody who attends the cafe there is welcome to join in as and when they feel, or just watch. So I'm very passionate about this charity, as I am Cornwall Mind. Both are very close to my heart. At all the cafes and events, they're welcome to everybody newly bereaved or bereaved many years ago, or you may want to just come along to see what it's all about. But we welcome each and every one of you. Christmas can be an extremely hard time of the year for some people. It could be for many, many reasons. One reason could be they've had a bereavement. And in my case, sadly, I lost my dad last year and my aunt within a short time of each other.
A space to speak your mind.
Now, in the first of our series on end-of-life care, I'm joined by Liz Pryor from the Anne Robson Trust. So the Anne Robson Trust provides pre-bereavement support to anyone affected by death and dying. The Time to Talk appeal hopes to raise awareness and funds for their vital helpline. And it's the only charity phone line for those facing the end of life or the imminent death of a loved one, friend or colleague. And joining us today is Liz Pryor, who's the founder and CEO of the Anne Robson Trust and also the daughter of Anne Robson. So Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Richard.
Can you tell me a bit about your mum, Anne Robson? I believe she was a volunteer at the local primary school and played an active role in church.
She she did. My mum lived in a little village in Suffolk, and before she had to go and live in a care home, she was quite actively involved in bits and pieces in the village. In the village, she used to go and listen to children reading in the village school, and she was very involved in the church, so she made the most of her life.
So what were the circumstances really around the end of her life? Can you give us a bit more detail in that?
Yeah, of course I can. So in 2010, I'd mentioned she was living in a care home. She unfortunately couldn't mobilise herself on her own or with one person, so she needed two people to help her. She was fiercely independent and didn't want to come live with any of her children. So she went to live in a lovely nursing home, and unfortunately one morning she fell out of bed. She'd refused to have sides on her bed, and she fell out and she hurt her hip, and she was admitted to hospital. Unfortunately, she had a very unpleasant stay in hospital for 7 days. The hospital had norovirus at the time, and so they were very rightly so aware of not allowing visitors in and out and things like that. So unfortunately, we weren't allowed to see Mum. For the whole week she was in the hospital. And there are loads and loads of similarities between what we and my mother went through and what the families and COVID patients have been through over the last 18 months or so. And it's very poignant from my point of view. And it's been very hard to watch the stories on the news and listen to people talking about saying goodbye to their mum or dad or partner in the back of an ambulance, because it feels very personal to me. That's what sort of happened to us. So Mum was in hospital for a week. She declined very, very rapidly, unbeknownst to us, obviously, because we weren't there. She was discharged the following Saturday and sadly died a few hours after she got back to her care home. Our family weren't told she was at the end of life, so I'm one of 5 siblings. My 2 sisters were able to be with Mum in those last hours, but myself and my brothers were not. And that really was the line in the sand for me, Richard. I felt absolutely incensed that this had happened to my mother, and that she wasn't going to die when she was admitted. She was just quite an elderly lady, but she wasn't at the end of her life. So to have that happen to her was just appalling, awful. And I ended up with my brothers and sisters sort of trying to find out what had happened to Mum, talking to the hospital. And in those years that followed Mum's death, I learned a huge amount about the complexities and challenges of the NHS and of caring for many thousands of elderly people, all presenting with different issues and problems. That's not to say I don't forgive the people that didn't look after my mum. I absolutely don't. But I do now have much more of an understanding of the challenges around caring for elderly people in the NHS.
I'm so sorry for the experience that you've had. It is such a story that we are hearing more and more, and obviously, the last 18 months has been difficult for so many people, but to have this as an added experience for you. So just bringing on the story a little bit, so you decided to set up the charity, did you?
Yes, I ended up working for some different charities, all in and around the NHS and around elderly care. And the last role I had was at our local hospital. I live in Hertfordshire, and it was at our local hospital in Stevenage, the Lister Hospital in Stevenage. I worked for the Director of Nursing there, and she asked me to look at end-of-life care, which we did. And myself and 2 palliative care nurses set up a team of volunteers. We called them butterfly volunteers. It was identified that between 15 and 20 people were dying without any visitors in between admission and when they die in the Lister per month. And now this was in 2016. So goodness knows how many people that's happening to now, Richard. It doesn't bear thinking about. But we set up this scheme. It was really successful. It's really, really simple. It's literally about a human being sitting with another human being in their last days and hours of their life and giving them some company and companionship. And also, we were surprised at how much the families of those patients, if they did have any family or friends visiting them, needed support too. So that's what the volunteers do. I then left the Lister to set up a charity to actually help other hospitals do exactly what we did there. And pre-COVID, pre-March 2020, that was our sole focus with the Anne Robson Trust. We were working with 5 hospitals in March as the pandemic hit us, and we had 5 more about to start. But that all got shut down really rapidly as lockdown happened, because visitors and volunteers weren't allowed into hospitals. So we had to properly think on our feet as far as our organisation was concerned, because we only had our charity registration confirmed in May 2018. So we're a very new organisation. We knew that there was even more need for the service. It was even greater than it had been before, but we couldn't get patients to the bedside, which is where the helpline came in, which is volunteers are based at home. They work through an amazing bit of software. It's lockdown proof. It's national. We can support people across the country, wherever they are, with volunteers, again, from across the country. We don't need to have them all in one place. It's much more flexible, and it's absolutely, we hope, pandemic proof.
And what have you found as far as the pre-bereavement support that you provide, as far as maybe some of the stories that you're hearing from the families?
Oh, gosh. Amazing things. Obviously, our calls are free and confidential, so we'd never talk about real life things, but I'm changing things so that I don't give any sort of confidential information. But we had somebody who called us whose father had been taken into hospital, into a COVID ward. So he was one of 6 or 7 children, I think. They could only have one nominated visitor for half an hour a day, and their father was dying. And how do you decide who that visitor is? And it couldn't be a different visitor every day. It could only be that one person. So there's a huge amount of pressure on that one person, but there's also very difficult family dynamics with all the other siblings. So it's not just about the person in the hospital, it's about the family and their relationships, and it's really complicated. We have lots of people calling who work within this environment, so they work in care homes or some in hospices, some in hospitals, who are really struggling with caring for people or not being able to have time to care for people like they'd want to care for people. We have people who have got a terminal diagnosis themselves who ring up to talk about how they're going to talk to their family because the family don't want to do it. They don't want to have the conversation. They don't want to face it. We also have people who call who don't have anything wrong with them, who aren't necessarily very, very elderly, but are very, very frightened of dying. And they want to talk to somebody about what might happen to them and how it all works and what paperwork they might put in place, why that's important. And so there's loads of different aspects to it. And, we're constantly surprised by what comes down the line. But, there are other pre-bereavement helplines, but they're very clinically orientated. So they're very much run by nursing staff, and they're more about symptoms and managing symptoms and things like that. Ours is absolutely non-clinical. It's about the well-being and the emotional support that people need in those years, months, weeks and days before somebody dies. Because we know that if you get really good support in that time, in that really, really stressful time, we feel that when that bereavement actually happens, it's a slightly easier process than it would have been if you'd been feeling very, very isolated and alone and frightened.
And I think the thing as well is because the people that your phone lines are, and yourself as well, you've had these experiences, and it's not until you reach that time where, as you say, you're asking questions and you've not been through this experience before, and to have someone who's had that journey and to be able to answer what might seem obviously very personal, but things that they just don't know how to ask or who to ask. Quite.
I think starting the conversation with your friends and loved ones is very hard. It actually isn't as hard once you start than you thought it was going to be. And I think if you can have the conversation before you're staring it in the face, if you see what I mean, before you're very, very ill, it makes it feel slightly less dramatic and less sort of real somehow. But if you can have the conversation, so on our website, Richard, we have something called our My Wishes checklist, which is a free to download document, which people can print off. They can either fill in electronically or they can print it off and fill it in by hand. And it's really just a crib sheet of things that you might like to think about and put in a really safe, secure place with your will, for instance. It just goes through all the different things that you might need to jot down. In these days of social media and different accounts for different things, and everyone has so many passwords, don't they? It would be, I think, really useful for families to have somebody's Netflix password, for example, or to see that they'd set up a legacy section on Facebook so that if something happens to them, their Facebook account doesn't stay forever. All these things that you don't necessarily think about, but that are hugely helpful to the people that are left behind should the worst happen. It's really important to say we don't advocate talking about death and dying all the time. We really don't. What we do encourage people to do is have a conversation over a glass of wine, have an evening discussing it. It can be quite cathartic, funnily enough, to put everything down on paper, find somewhere really secure to keep it, and then get on with your life. It's as simple as that, really.
You know, for a lot of people who are going through this experience, it's something that I think is going to be an absolute lifeline for them. How can people support the charity and also help to extend your services? Is there a way they can do that?
Yes, absolutely, there is. The first week of November, we launched our Time to Talk Christmas campaign to raise awareness of our service and help us with some donations to help keep it running next year. Our web address is www.robsontrust.org.uk. We're on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. The helpline telephone number is 0808 801 0688. As I mentioned earlier, the calls are free and confidential. We don't collect any data on anybody that rings. We don't know who you are or what your phone number is or anything like that. The lines are open between 12 and 6 on weekdays, and there's out-of-hours help by emailing helpline@robsontrust.org.uk. And we're really hoping that the hours will increase as the service grows, so that we'll be able to provide support for as many hours as we can, really. And I'm also really pleased to say that the calls have tripled since March, which is really, really good. We want to get to as many people as we can because we know there are so many people out there who need support at this very difficult time in their life. I'm really pleased also to say that we're in conversation with the team at Royal Cornwall NHS Trust to start working with them hopefully soon to set up some end-of-life volunteer teams in the hospital in your area. So that's really exciting too.
That's so good to hear. We wish you luck with it. I know it is a very sensitive subject, but hopefully having people talking about it more and more and knowing that the service is available, I think it's such a great benefit. And we'll put all the details that you've just mentioned on our podcast and on our Facebook and Twitter pages as well, so people can link into those if they're just listening as they're passing through today. So good to hear from you, Liz, and I wish you all the best with it. And thank you so much for helping all the people that you do.
That's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Richard.
A space to speak your mind.
So the Department of Health and Social Care is launching a new recruitment campaign called Made with Care, aiming to encourage people across England to pursue a rewarding career in adult social care. And this follows on from the campaign launched in February last year. And we're joined today by Lynn Romeo, who's the Chief Social Worker for Adults. Good to have you with us, Lynn.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit more about this part of the Made with Care campaign.
Okay, well, today we're launching a big recruitment campaign to attract people with the right values into social care. It's a fantastic, rewarding career. We've got a lot of vacancies at the moment, 105,000 vacancies, and there will be more as we have more demand for social care support for people. There are jobs all over the country and particularly in Cornwall, so it's a real opportunity for people to work locally if they have the right values and they really are interested in people and they want to feel a sense of having achieved something every day in improving somebody's life, making a difference to somebody's life, then this is the place for them.
Yeah, I imagine it's one of those things because obviously over the last 18 months, we've seen the effects that care workers have and just to be able to be part of it. And I think for some people, it may be something they've considered but not really made that first step. So what would you really say to someone who might be considering doing something like this?
Well, firstly, we've got a website where they can go to, adultsocialcare.co.uk. So go in there, have a look. They'll find everything they need to know about a career in adult social care. And crucially, they'll then be able to search for social care jobs near them through the DWP Find a Job website. But that'll all be on that website. So I'll just say it again, adultsocialcare, all one word, .co.uk. So that will tell everybody everything they need to know.
There is a big particular need at the moment, isn't there, for care workers? You quoted some statistics just there about how many people we're looking for.
That's right. We've got a lot of vacancies. We're going to have more demand for social care workers. It makes such a difference to people's lives day in, day out to be able to have somebody come and provide them with the care and support they need, to cheer them up. I've seen people's lives change through the kind of relationship they have with their care worker, and just even the little things that a care worker can do to support somebody makes all the difference to their health and well-being and their ability to stay independent at home in their own communities, or where necessary, if they're in a care home setting, to be part of that community and well looked after.
I'm thinking as well, because people might be in different roles or in different jobs, but already have the kind of skills that you're looking for. Could you tell us a bit about maybe your story or how you got into this line of work?
Yes, of course. So I started off when I was 16, 17, actually. I started visiting to one of the local nursing homes, and I really enjoyed it, and I could see what a difference it made and how fantastic the staff were with looking after the elderly people. So I then decided to pursue a career in social work. But whilst I did my degree, I carried on working as a healthcare assistant in the local hospital. So the most important things are being patient, interested in people, knowing how to talk to people, caring about their story, being interested in them. I think that's one of the things. You've got to really love people and be empathic and patient and reliable and observant and be watching out for them and checking out patterns so you know when things aren't quite right, and being able to spend that time picking up with them what matters to them, what are the things they want to do, how can you support and enable them to do that. So it's the right values, those sorts of people skills, but also a lot of training and support is provided. So the more kind of technical aspects of care work, people will get that training and development once they enter the sector.
I'm just reading some of the case studies as well from other people that have taken part. It's almost like a gradual thing that you do. So you may have your main job, but you may do a bit of caring and then sort of progress through. Is that how you would see it as well?
Yes, so some people are already doing caring roles for people in their families, their parents, brothers, sisters, whoever. And sometimes people from that then decide that this is what they want to do as a job, and then they'll go into it as a career. Other people, I met somebody just the other day, he'd been a builder and he was going into the care home to do building works, and he saw what a fantastic thing it was to be able to work with people and be there with them. And he decided to do a career switch in his 40s and become a care assistant. And he has never looked back. He just loves it. It just lifts his heart every day to be doing something that really matters and is so meaningful. So that's the kind of key thing, I suppose. It's very meaningful, rewarding work at that level. And whilst initially it might not be the most financially rewarding thing, in time, people can work their way into different opportunities where they can have a lifelong career in social care.
And we talk on this particular show a lot about mental health, and we find that actually doing something that helps other people can help ourselves as well. So there's almost like a double benefit, isn't it, by doing something active where you are making a difference to somebody's life?
That's right, exactly. Making a difference to somebody's life, that's what it's all about. Listening to people, understanding what matters to them, knowing how it helps them to have their care and support delivered is very important. This is quite empathic work. So you're really working alongside the person. You're there to enable and support them to live the life that they want. That's the most important thing, and trying to create that environment for them. Particularly, it's not just with older people. As care workers work with people with learning disabilities, with mental health issues, with physical disabilities, young people progressing into adulthood who still need support as they become adults. It's a very rich and varied landscape, social care, and it's never a dull moment. Lots of different opportunities in lots of different settings.
As we say, I think people may already have these skills and not realise. So just to be able to use something that you already have and then bring it into this field seems such a worthwhile thing to be able to do. So just remind us again on the place that people can go and get more information from this today.
Yes, so the website is adultsocialcare.co.uk. If they click into that, they'll be able to find all they need to know about a career in adult social care. And crucially, they'll be able to search for social care jobs near them through the DWP Find a Job site. And that's really important for people in Cornwall, because that's, I know, an area where sometimes there's a struggle to get work. So that is a brilliant opportunity for people who want to stay local and support their local community and work with people in their local community.
So that's fantastic, Lynn. If people go onto the website, they can find out. But for now, Lynn Romeo, Chief Social Worker for Adults, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
A space to speak your mind.
This is A Space to Speak Your Mind, and time to find out what's happening at Cornwall Mind this month.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind for better mental health.
Hi, this is Lucy from Cornwall Mind, here to just give you a little update on what's happening this month. We've got lots of cinema screenings with Skylight Cinema up at the Cattle Market in Truro. Unfortunately, our skydive was postponed again, and that's now going to take place on March the 13th next year. If anybody's interested in taking part in a skydive, just get in touch with us, info@cornwallmind.org. Also thrilled to let everybody know that we've launched a 30-day exercise campaign. It's called Move for Mind. If you check out our website, all the details will be there. This will run in December, January and into February. And it's an exercise challenge for everyone. So find out some more information, commit yourself to taking part in regular activity and help us to raise awareness and funds for better mental health. Have a great Christmas, everyone, and take care of each other.
For support and more information for better mental health, visit the Cornwall Mind website at cornwallmind.org, or you can call the Mind helpline during office hours on 0300 123 3393. And don't forget, you can call the Samaritans anytime for free on 116 123. If you'd like to be part of the show, you can get in contact with us. You can just email aspacetospeakyourmind@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @aspacetospeak or like us on Facebook.
A space to speak your mind.
Hi, it's Jess again. I'm here with a little piece of writing. You might call it a poem. It's called Christmas, the most wonderful time of the year. Christmas, the most wonderful time of the year. Hurrah, hurrah, I hear you cheer. Or does just the mere mention of the C word fill you with dread? No, not that one. That one, Christmas. It's okay not to buy presents for underneath the Christmas tree. Just being present is plenty enough for me. Take time out before you burn out. Christmas is just one day. Let's try and spread cheer all year. Remember, it's okay to not be okay. Christmas comes with many pressures. Reach out to loved ones near, and do not fear. You are not alone here. If Christmas isn't the most wonderful time of the year for you, hang in there. It'll soon be over.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind for better mental health.
I'm joined by Lucy from Cornwall Mind and Warwick from Skylight Cinema. So Warwick, you've organised a series of drive-in movies over December. Can you tell me a bit more about these?
Yeah, of course. They start on the 2nd of December, and then they run every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, up until 22nd, 23rd is the last one. And we've got films on, I think they cover almost all the bases, whether it's Elf, Family and the Kids, or something a little bit more adult, such as Love Actually. It will allow everyone to come up and have a good time. That's the main thing. We've got local food and drink suppliers. We've got a big covered area for seating. We've got festive traders going up there. We'll have live music on a Thursday. So there'll be loads going on to try and make it more than just a cinema screening. We want people to come up, enjoy spending their time, they have something to eat, grab a drink, enjoy just being out, really.
They are all Christmas-themed films, are they?
Yeah, every single one is a Christmas-themed film, one way or the other.
Where is it taking place?
Up at Truro Cattle Market.
And if someone's never been to a drive-in movie before, I know we've seen them on the screens, but we might not actually have ever experienced it ourselves. So what do we expect when we go to a drive-in movie?
Well, everyone's first question is, how do I hear the film? And the simple answer is, we will give you a Bluetooth speaker when you arrive, which allows you to hear everything. We can change the input. So if we need to jump on the mic or anything, everything comes with this little speaker you get given when you arrive. Obviously, all cars parked according to size. So simply don't want someone with a Range Rover in the front row with a Mini behind them. But again, we've done a lot of these now. We like to think we've got them pretty much down to a T.
It sounds really exciting. I've never been to a drive-in movie. I'd love to see. So you've basically got the big screen in front of you and you're listening, as you say, through the Bluetooth speaker. You're basically with your family in the car, just having a really good time.
Yeah, exactly. And we are encouraging people to get out of their cars this year. Obviously, the whole event is outdoors. So in terms of COVID and all that, it's as safe as it can possibly be. So we will have live music on a Thursday in the marquee. It will be a really nice opportunity for everyone to come out, enjoy being together, because last Christmas wasn't quite the same.
And Cornwall Mind is your chosen charity for the event too. So why did you choose them in particular?
I think over the last 16, 18 months now, you've struggled to find a single person that hasn't had a bad day. There's been enough going on to put even the strongest of people to test. And I think it's a local charity that's important to me. So every pound that obviously we raise from Cornwall Mind will go to Cornwall Mind and be used in Cornwall. And I think it is so important. I just think it's a really important charity at the moment.
So hopefully the screenings will raise a lot of money for better mental health in Cornwall. So Lucy, great to know that if people come along to the films, they're also going to be supporting Cornwall Mind.
Gosh, we're so blessed and so grateful to Warwick and the whole Skylight team for choosing to support better mental health with these festive screenings. You know, Christmas can be a really difficult time for many of us and for many different reasons. And as Warwick said, last year's was certainly a challenge. We're experiencing an unprecedented demand for our vital services here in Cornwall. And so to have the support of a local company that are trying to bring joy and great memories to families and friends this Christmas really does leave us all really kind of feeling ever so moved and touched that he's going to help us raise awareness as well as funds. Warwick's been brilliant to give us an opportunity to share a short promo video about who we are so we can have those conversations. People know where to turn to if they're struggling, and hopefully snuggle up in their cars and get some hot chocolate, get some popcorn and sit and enjoy some of these amazing movies that are being screened. So it really is a win-win event for us this Christmas. And just thank you so much for reaching out to support us, Warwick. It really does mean a lot to all the team, especially to those that are client-facing and working with people who are struggling in our communities every day.
And Lucy, there's also a text number that people can donate to Cornwall Mind whilst they're at the drive-in.
Absolutely. Whilst people are sitting in the comfort of their cars, should this be a charity that people wish to make any further donations to, you can text MIND and then your £sign with the amount that you'd like to donate, and you would text that to 70580. It will be on the screen at the time, so it will be very clear to people there if this is something that they wish to do. I think, like Warwick said, it's been a really challenging 18, 20 months. Everybody has struggled in different ways with fear and isolation and loss. And it continues to take its toll for so many of us. And now more than ever, we need to be there for those who need us. And we can't do that without support from our community. And every pound raised will stay in Cornwall and will fund our wellbeing and our recovery groups for anybody and everybody who needs us. So thank you ever so much for coming along to the event. Thank you for supporting Cornwall Mind.
And Warwick, the important question we need to ask you, which is the film that you're most looking forward to seeing?
I think if I didn't say Elf, I'd be Had Up. It's got to be everyone's favourite. That's probably why we've got it on 5 times. It's just sums Christmas up, I think, that film.
Yeah, and to have that on the big screen as well. And also, Lucy, what's your favourite Christmas film that you might be hoping to see at the drive-in?
Well, I've already booked 2, actually, so I'm very excited. So, yeah, of course, Elf's a huge family favourite. But Nativity is a very close one in our house. We've even seen the show on the stage. So, actually, we love Nativity. It just makes you smile and laugh. So very much looking forward to taking the family to enjoy that. There is something for everybody, you know, we'd love Actually as well, and evening events as well. It's for families, it's for couples, it's for friends to get together, and with markets and crafts as well. It's going to be more than just a movie. It's an opportunity to have a really nice, memorable evening out that's local, and it's just something I'm really looking forward to. So here we go.
All the films and screenings can be seen if you click through from the Cornwall Mind website. So if you go to cornwallmind.org, there's a link there. You can also book to see them as well. And it's happening right up until the 23rd of December. If you missed anything on today's show, or if you'd like to hear any of our past shows, you can download the podcast right now on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Just search for A Space to Speak Your Mind. That's all from myself and Jess this month. Have a fantastic December and join us again in the new year.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind for better mental health.